Ambulance crews and paramedics around the country work tirelessly to respond to real-life emergencies every single day. We all understand that some tragedies are unavoidable, and we learn to live with the outcomes. However, if it wasn't for the crews, support teams and help from the public, more individuals and more communities would suffer the loss of friends, families and loved ones every day. Most people see the flashing lights on a response vehicle and just get out of the way. They don't stop to think about the amazing people inside working to save yet another life. They don't think about the poor victim or their family. When you start to understand the stories and meet the people who have survived because of the actions of an emergency service crew, you suddenly have a greater appreciation of those flashing lights. This film is a celebration of both the survivors whose lives have been affected by the paramedics and also the paramedics themselves. We'll hear from 8 survivors whose lives have been saved by the South East Coast Ambulance Service and also meet the heroes behind their stories.
I felt fine. I just went to bed on a Thursday evening and it happened in my sleep at 6:30 in the morning.
Then as I drove around the corner with my mother, I just said to her, saw that there'd been an accident. Oh, there's obviously been an accident there, and then recognised Joe's shorts and realised that it was him. And so obviously pulled over and jumped out the car.
He went to sit down up on the patio seat and he just sat there and asked if he wanted a cup of tea and made him a cup of tea. And then I was messing about down the garden and he got up, walked down to me and just said, "Oh, I feel funny," and just collapsed.
But I forgot that the car was in gear, which meant that the car stalled but lurched forward, dragging me with it. It then wedged itself against something, I understand, a couple of cars, and I was crushed half in and half out in the doors.
Come back and put the girls to bed and just sort of sat down on the sofa, and I told by my husband that my words were slurring, and I just slumped forward and collapsed.
And I went to the bedroom, light switch, turned on the lights, and found her fixed, her eyes dilated, on her back.
He seemed to have a kind of fit. It was very odd. And I said to him, "You know, you all right?" And I thought, you know, you don't know what you're thinking. And I said, "If you don't kind of get your act together, I'm going to have to call an ambulance." And it happened again, but worse. So I dialed 999.
My husband had come up to bed that night and found that I wasn't breathing and had to start doing CPR on me while my youngest daughter rang for an ambulance.
We had a phone call just after 8:30 on the Friday evening. My son-in-law Mick phoned and said that Lisa had collapsed, and the paramedics were there.
We arrived on scene to see Steve just turning up at the same time, and we all went into the house together, seeing as it was a cardiac arrest, and found the husband doing CPR.
So we rushed down, not expecting what we saw, that they were carrying out CPR on Lisa on the front room floor of our house.
When we arrive on scene and see somebody that young, you immediately, your heart goes into your mouth.
We were just there encouraging Lisa, talking to her and trying to make sure that she stayed with us and to help as much as we could by encouraging Lisa not to give up.
A member of the public had stopped and was getting him as comfortable as possible, putting something under his head. But he was more or less out of it by then. He was groaning a bit, but bubbling at the mouth and nose, and it was obviously not good.
When I got to the scene, the 2 crews were already working on Joe, and we had some very experienced people there. Joe was a challenge. You're faced with multiple injuries, including multiple bodily systems. There isn't just one thing going on, there's many things going on, and you've got to address all these at the same time.
And I think it was only about 10 minutes later that the air ambulance arrived. Put lung drones in and took him off to Royal London. But no, I think it was just, this can't really be happening.
It's my wife. She's sort of having some sort of like fit seizure sort of thing.
Right, how old is she?
She's 23.
She's 23, and she's sitting, or her whole body shaking?
No, she's just like leant over and like really started deep breathing, and like I couldn't get any sense out of her.
And
yeah.
Is she breathing and is she conscious?
She's breathing, but she's not conscious.
Okay, so the ambulance is already on its way, okay? Right, okay, so put your cheek by her mouth and see if you can feel her breath on you.
No, there's nothing.
There's nothing. Is she not breathing?
No.
Okay, so get her on her back, roll her on her back.
Okay.
Okay, so get yourself in the middle of her chest, okay? You position yourself next to her, put your hand in the middle of her chest,
yeah.
Okay? And your other hand on top. You need to push down, do a compression for 2.5 centimetres, okay, and then release. You need to do this at a rate of 1 and 2 and 3.
Okay. 1 and 2 and 3.
1 and 2 and 3.
3.
Okay, they're nearly there. 1 and 2 and 3.
3. 1 and 2 and 3.
1 and 2 and 3.
1 and 2.
I think for me, what was so very special about that incident was that I'd never met Bronwyn before, and here I am whispering in your ear, please just keep breathing, it's going to be fine.
The sweetest sound you hear is that ambulance coming.
You get them sort of calls, and we looked at one another and sort of slung the tea out the window and went and turned up virtually at the same time right out the front as the other crew, lucky enough.
To hear what was being done in the background was just, fantastic.
A neighbour was doing CPR on him, which was brilliant, which made a huge difference. And we all just slipped into a routine where you all take designated roles.
It's just out of this world, obviously, knowing that you've played that part into saving her life.
And you just keep reassuring them, telling them how well they're doing.
I know that these guys, as soon as you dispatch them, I know they're going to do absolutely everything.
Very, very much a team effort, from everybody that you see on the road to the people who are in control that you just don't see. Everyone plays their part.
It's not an individual action by any single one of us, but as a team, we can do some good.
Just recently returned from holiday, and Ellie, Lisa's daughter, swam a width of the pool on her own, and we were all crying because that's something we're conscious of, the fact things like that she would never have seen.
I think it's really important, because if we didn't have them, then Gwenda probably wouldn't be here.
They were marvellous. From beginning to end, absolutely marvellous.
It was just incredible, the amount of people that were involved, how they were with us all. Obviously saved my son's life, there's no way I could ever thank them enough.
Eternally grateful. I mean, they didn't just save my life, it's the impact that they've had on my family. So I couldn't put into words how grateful I am for what they did that day. And it's something that obviously is given me a chance.
This film is not just a celebration of survival, it's a testimony to the amazing people that make survival possible. With the help of the South East Coast Ambulance Service, these 8 people have been given their lives back. The crews involved in these stories don't want to be known as heroes. To them, it's just what they do, but they do it tirelessly because they care about people and the communities they live in.
When they came, I knew that everything that would be done, they would do.
Just knowing what to do straight away and just communicating with each other so well. It's just really amazing how they do it.
And it's just the way they come in and just take total control and know exactly what they're doing. They're so obviously brilliantly trained, but just them themselves keeping their head together and just getting on with the job in hand.
So next time you see those flashing lights in your rearview mirror, remember that every emergency has its own story with its own outcomes. But no matter what the situation, we can rest assured that we will get the very best efforts from our dedicated teams at the South East Coast Ambulance Service.